Hey guys, welcome to Witch Baby Wednesdays. I am Darian and today I'm going to talk about connecting with deities. So if you are interested in that, keep on watching.
One day I'll be a queen with a kingdom all for me, and I'll cherish everything as I drop to my knees, 'cause I know.
Hey guys, welcome back. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so that you know every time I post a new video. So I went on a little bit of a hiatus. I decided to take off. I announced this on Facebook. I decided to take a little bit off. It's like been 2 weeks or something like that. Decided to take a little bit of time off for some mental health, just maintenance, right? It's Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And just for some maintenance, I decided, there were some things that, if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I've been going through some things, or I went through some really, really, really heavy stuff in the last 2 years. And so there just was still some things that needed to be healed, cleared, heard, paid attention to. And so literally that day that I decided to do that, I just let myself cry for a full day, and I ended up getting sick. So I have been sick for 2 weeks. Which is not like me. I very rarely, I cannot tell you the last time I've been sick. Usually I get I just don't get this sick. So I don't need to go that deep into it. But, so that's where I've been. But I'm here now, and that's cool. That's awesome. I also thought of today, and I might start doing this. If you guys enjoy this, let me know. I think I'm going to pull a tarot card or two at the end of this video, so it won't have any timestamp on it or anything like that. It won't be like today, this weekend. It'll be anytime you watch this. If it resonates with you, then it resonates with you, and whatever. So today I want to talk about connecting with deities. I did get this question from a few people on Instagram. Actually, a lot of people have been asking me, how do you connect with deities? I've also heard from some people that come from the world that I come from, which is the spiritual mystic world, the all oneness, light worker kind of world, and knowledge, really personal development is in that as well. Being a student of A Course in Miracles, people that come from that world who can't really connect with this concept of deities. So I totally get that. And I'm not an expert on deities, but I can tell you in my own experience how I've been able to connect with deities. And this is the information I'm going to give you today is just going to be some tidbits. It's going to help you, whether you're one of those people that believe wholeheartedly in those deities, or you're kind of coming from that world where, that more mystic kind of world where deities, it's hard to wrap your brain around. It's hard to even think that they're real. It's hard to believe in them. So I'm going to help those of you who are on that kind of spectrum as well. So let's get into it. First of all, what is a deity? So if you look up the definition of a deity is really any divine being, essentially. So a ghost could be a deity, a spirit of any kind could be a deity. Somebody who's considered a god or a goddess would be a deity. So traditionally, when we think of deities, we think of, the ancient mythology, Greek mythology and Roman mythology of gods and goddesses. But there's also Buddhist I don't know if it's considered mythology, but there's Buddhist deities. There's actually, now that I say that, this Buddha that everybody really loves to comment on because I'm a witch and I have a Buddha. What the hell does that mean? But this Buddha is actually Kuan Yin. So Kuan Yin is essentially the goddess of compassion, the goddess of kindness, love, and she has a great deal of wisdom. She's also in the wisdom corner, feng shui, of my bedroom. And so that is why I placed her there. I've always felt very connected. So that is a deity. Having a statue is one way of connecting with a deity. But really, I want to talk about really connecting with a deity. So Jesus would be considered a deity. So here's where I think that, I think in the Western world as well, we get a little bit caught up with deities. And I'm going to talk about my own personal experience. If you really want to know the history of me and what I believe in, you can look up What Witches Worship. That's a video that I did. You can also watch my channel. I've had 4 years of content on this channel where I talk about my belief systems and where I'm coming from and all that kind of stuff. So if you really want to know that, because I'm not, every witch is different. So with that said, I did come from, Christianity, and we know that like Jesus was a man. And so I think maybe because Jesus was a man and now a lot of people pray to Jesus as God, it's maybe easier to wrap your head around the fact that Jesus was a human being, and maybe you're praying to the spirit of Jesus. Buddha, also Kuan Yin, who is the feminine Buddha, and the male Buddha, who is the one who created Buddhism, they were human beings, so maybe it's easier to wrap your brain around that. Whereas Greek mythology, even ancient Egyptians, gods and goddesses, you think about Thoth and Horus and goddess Mot, who I talked about in the tarot deck, the last video that I did, which is the ideals of Mot. When you think about those things, where these are really mythologies, these are deities that are essentially made up, right? They were never really technically humans walking on earth. And so I think that might be where there's kind of a disconnect for some people. I've always had ease with connecting with Mother Mary and Jesus. Now, Mother Mary, it's said that a lot of people say this, a lot of books that I've read have said this. I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of books have said that Isis, the goddess, was many different incarnations. So that Isis was Mother Mary, that Isis was, did sort of incarnate in different ways. Same with lots of other deities or mythologies or whatever. So there's all sorts of things that are going around. And these are also many different cultures that I'm pulling from right now. So there's Greek and there's Roman and Egyptian and there's Celtic goddesses and gods and, Buddhist, and there's just so many. And so we do have the ability now today, we have so many eclectic witches, there's so much eclecticism, if that's a word, that we're all really pulling from a lot of these different things. So, and also a lot of people will connect with angels and demons. So whether you believe in demons, some people don't believe in demons. I don't believe that there are any less than benevolent beings in a higher realm, right? So if we're thinking about the spirit realm, higher realm, I believe that's a whole nother video that we'll have to get into at another time when we'll talk about demonology and angels and demons and all that kind of stuff. But those are still considered deities, just because they're divine beings, right? So it can be a little bit difficult. It can be tough when you're like looking at all those things. First thing I want to say is none of that is the end all be all, really. There's no proof of any of that, right? None of us have really any proof. The only kind of proof we can have of any of that stuff is our own experience of it. So your own experience as a witch it trumps all. Your own personal experience really trumps all, because you can't understand anything outside of your own experience anyway. No matter what you read, you can't understand it until you actually experience it. So it doesn't even matter, really. You can have book knowledge on deities and not actually have knowledge. And so there's the difference between connecting, right? To connect with a deity is to actually have a personal experience of a deity versus just reading up on a deity. So with that being said, here's my first tip on how to connect with deities. So the traditional witchcraft way would be what you could probably, I don't know that this is traditional, but the way a lot of witches are doing it right now is there are known ways to connect with certain deities. So certain deities are connected with certain colors. Some deities, there are certain fruits. There are things that we offer up to these deities. So maybe you could look at that as like the sacrifice that you're giving, the thanks that you're giving, something that you're offering to this deity. So traditionally, that's the way it goes. Even in Buddhist traditions, they offer fruits and things like that. So if you ever see like a Buddhist, so my daughter's family is Buddhist. I grew up around a lot of Buddhists. And if you ever see, they have those Buddhist altars at their home and they'll have incense And they offer fruit. When they go to people's graves, a lot of times they'll offer fruit as opposed to like flowers or something like that. And that's sort of an offering to the Buddha, okay? Or really, I don't know all the details about that, but that's an offering, right? So a lot of times what many witches or magicians or whatever, however you identify as, will have their altar set up. I definitely would recommend all witches have an altar. But they'll have an altar or some sort of sacred place, right? This could be considered sort of an altar. A lot of people have multiple altars. I kind of do have multiple altars where I actually have three. I have this one, I have one on the floor here, which is my main altar, and then I have another one, which is really a storage of all of my magical ingredients and tools and such. But on top of it, you know, sometimes I'll put, like here I have a crystal grid here and books here and things like that that are sacred or meaningful in some way. But essentially what you'll do, and you can have an altar anywhere, and you'll put those offerings onto that table, and then you can sit in a meditation or whatever. So here's the thing though. That's one way of doing it, but that's a very practical, there's not much like esoteric, there's not much energy, like real connection in that. Like, yeah, you could put something on a table, but if that doesn't mean anything to you, then it doesn't mean anything to you. It has to mean something to you. It has to mean something to the connection. So let me give you a prime example. The first thing that's coming to me is, during one of, was it the winter solstice? Yeah, the winter solstice where we connect with goddess Bridget. I wrote a song called Winter. It's actually on my channel. It's available on iTunes. Not that I'm trying to promote that, but whatever, why not promote myself? But that song was actually me connecting with the energy of winter and the energy of goddess Bridget. Whatever that meant to me, I didn't really, this is my first year that it's been a year now that I've been practicing witchcraft and studying witchcraft. And so, me celebrating the witch Sabbats is fresh and new to me. And my way of connecting with Bridget was, I did like a Bridget knot, which they say to do. But what made me personally feel really connected was to write this really beautiful song about winter. Right? And the song was called Winter. And it wasn't just about winter. It was about the magic of the transition in winter and about how there's so much magic beneath the snow and beneath the surface of the cold and the frozen world, right? And it was me connecting with that. I am a creatrix. I am a musician. That is my magic. That's part of my magic. And so that was my way of connecting with Bridget. And every time I sing that song, I'm singing to her. If you listen to the lyrics, it sounds like I'm singing to a loved one, like a man or whatever, but I'm not. I'm singing to Bridget. I'm singing to her soul. I'm singing to, the light that she was bringing to me in that moment, this peaceful, quiet, joyful magic that I was feeling as I was writing that song. It was literally snowing outside as I was writing this song about snow falling on the ground and just this beauty and this beautiful thing. And so in those moments, I felt connected while I was writing that song. And every time I sing that song, I feel connected to that deity. If you know what I'm saying? And so it really has to be personal to you. And that's what it is to be a witch. It's to find your own thumbprint of your own magic. You know what I mean? And do it that way, right? So here's some other ways that I've connected with. I think that we get a disconnect when trying to connect with deities, because I think a lot of people, they see this like rule book of gods and goddesses, like, oh, you have to show certain colors and it has to be, certain, you have to offer them certain things, and they are connected, bats and spiders are connected with them, and you have to get coffin nails, and you know what I mean? Like it's like we're reading this rule book, which isn't really a rule book, but we're reading this rule book and thinking that we have to do it that way. And then we start trying to fit ourselves into this mold, and that is not magic. That is not the fucking practice of magic. Excuse my language, but it's not. The real practice of magic is being open and allowing yourself to receive those messages. So in some of the ways that I have connected with deities is sitting in meditation and asking for help. And not just asking for help, but saying, who can help me? And then allowing whomever to come forth. So I've talked in the past about how Medusa has come through. I never knew anything about Medusa other than the traditional, we all know Medusa, cut her head off and then, turns people to stone. Like that's all I ever knew about Medusa when I first started getting into this. But last year, I did a prayer, I did a healing prayer, asking for healing. I said, I don't know who can help me, but if there is a deity out there, if there's a goddess out there, I was really connecting with goddesses, or if there's a female deity out there that can really help me. I was being abused. I was experiencing abusive energy really attacking me and coming to me for a very long time. And I was in a great deal of fear and I needed help. And so in that moment, in me praying, in me meditating, I was setting an intention. I need help. This is what I need. And I was open to whatever was to come to me, trusting that what was to come to me was benevolent, was going to protect me, was going to help me, whatever. That is a form of protection, right? So whether I put up a protection and I say only love can come through this, or if I say I trust that whatever's going to come to me is here to help me, for my soul, for whatever. And what came through was Medusa, and she came through as a protector. So it's almost like she just came through. So what I mean when I say she came through is I get visions, right? So I got a vision of Medusa, which was coupled with a feeling of being protected, right? And she stood in front of me, and the snakes from her hair were literally eating, not literally, but I guess in my mind, were eating the abusive words. That's what was happening. Like all the energy, they were just eating it. It was just devouring it. And she just stood in front of me, and she was so fierce and so powerful. And this feminine fierceness that I was just like taken back. And it just came to me, right? So there's been times where Hecate has come to me, or Hecate, however you say her name. She is the triple goddess. She is the goddess of witches, right? She's the witch queen. So there was a time where I was asking her I wasn't asking her specifically, but I was asking for some goddess, powerful goddess, to come through and help me. And I did, because I don't know all the goddesses. I wasn't familiar with all the goddesses. And so I just sat and go, okay, who can help me? Who's there? Who is there? And when Hecate came through, she showed me a vision of her. She was behind my back. I asked her to clear out pain that was in my heart chakra. She was on my back, and she was conjuring just like this. She was going like this and conjuring just like magically, conjuring spiders out of my back. And they were just crawling out of my back. And so I did not know this necessarily at the time, but one of the symbols that represents Hecate is a spider. So Hecate is connected to a lot of animals, being that she is so many things, and she is the triple goddess and all of that, but spiders was one of them. And she was pulling this, and the fact that she was pulling it out of my back really meant that that was stuff from my past, cobwebs from my past, right? I mean, it represented so much. Did I really know much about Hecate at the time? No, but I knew it was her because she was fierce as a mother, and she was in all black, and she was going like this. And she was in her mother phase. So there's maiden, mother, crone phase. So usually like something like that will happen. I'll have a vision, something like that. And then I'll start to Google it, and I'll go, okay, I think that this might be this goddess, but I'm not sure. And what goddess represents spiders, and what goddess is usually in all black, or, things like that. And a lot of times people will get visions that are actually similar. This is why across many different civilizations, a lot of gods and goddesses tend to look a lot alike, because whoever is in the receiving mode of these goddesses, they're going to get visions that are similar, and they're going to be depicted in similar ways, right? Of course, we're all interpreting things slightly different, but, just because that's how Source speaks to us all differently, but, we'll kind of pick up on things. So that's another way of connecting with these these gods and goddesses or angels or whomever, I have a whole soul family, and you have to think about it. For me, I'm channeling things for, I have 12,000 followers. Some of my videos have reached almost 200,000 views. So I'm connecting to the sort of, if you could call them spirit guides of you guys. So it's like my soul family is your soul family, and I have this whole army of entities that I've always been connecting with, and I usually see them as angels because they're so light and airy and bubbly, and they're like my girlfriends. I don't know. And then sometimes I connect with my witch ancestors, and I can feel that they're from past lives, and not just in my blood ancestry, but in past lives. I can feel that. And those are some powerful ass witches, like, oh my mother effing G. They're the ones that are leading this sort of circle of powerful witches, and they're here. Like, they're here now. Just know that. They're all here now. The moment I talk about them, they're here. That's what's so beautiful about the spirit world, is that you don't really need to jump through hoops. The moment you have a thought about a deity, the deity's there. You know what I mean? As long as you're not blocking it, it's there. So let me give some advice to those of you who are having trouble with sort of connecting with these like Greek mythology, or whatever, any kind of mythology, that these people aren't really real, or what, how do I connect with this. So traditionally, Egyptian, so it's said, and this makes a lot of sense to me, which is why I'm relaying it to you. So it's said that traditionally in Egyptian, it's not really called Egyptian mythology, but we'll call it that. In Egyptian mythology, Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Celtic mythology, all of this sort of mythology, essentially, so let's talk about the Egyptians for a moment. When I started to look into Goddess Ma'at, which was the last video I did on that deck of oracle cards that I reviewed, I started to look into more about Goddess Ma'at. And she is the goddess of justice, of order, of sort of truth in that sense, balance, justice, order, all of that. She's represented by scales, which is, again, balance, order, feels very Libra-like to me. I'm a Libra rising, we like that kind of stuff. We love order. And it's said that Egyptians, they would take a concept or, like order, justice. Justice is a concept. It's not a god or a goddess. It is a concept, but it's a concept that the world, there is a justice, there is an order to the world, right? It's like they picked up on this sense that energetically there is an order to the world that exists, right? You can't argue with that, right? And so energetically, this order, what they did was they took that order and they would pray to it, and they would give it a name. They would name it a god or a goddess, right? So Thoth was the one who brought, so think of Thoth as like, if you are a musician, Thoth is the sort of the energy, we could say, that is the muse, that gives me writing, the ability to write and create music. Right? And if you're a musician or a writer, you know that, right? And a lot of people who are musicians follow me. So you know that there's this muse, there's this energy that comes through you. You understand it, you tune into it. You have to tune into it to get to that. So in Egyptian mythology or whatever, that would be considered like the god Thoth, who is sort of that muse, right? So if you're that person who doesn't necessarily want to connect with the deity, you could connect with the energy of it. So you could sit in a meditation and feel what it feels like, feel what justice feels like. If you want to connect to the goddess of love, you could feel the energy of love and just sit in a meditation and connect with that energy of love, and then ask the energy of love what to do. Because that energy, you can't argue with the fact that energy is an entity of itself, right? So the energy of love, it's palpable. It is an energy. You feel it. The energy of lust, that's sort of egoic. That's a different energy that feels different. That feels almost like a demon, right? Like that feels palpable. The ego, a lot of people equate the devil with the ego. That ego energy that pulls you towards anger and jealousy and separation, those are all like, they're entities. When you tune into them, they can take on a life of their own, right? It works the same with any bit of energy. And so I think for Greek, Roman, for all of these civilizations that created these into gods and goddesses, I get it. I understand why they would have done that. Having not had the knowledge that we now have, but being very connected, because they don't have books to read. All they have is connection, right? And they have their own people that they've taught through word of mouth and through the things that they've written down, but they don't have what we have today. A lot of people, which is essentially just a lot of people in our ears, they interpreted it as they understood it and they could interpret it. Now, when you're tuned in, you have an understanding that energy is powerful, so powerful that it can be perceived as a god or goddess because it can take on a life of its own. It can create anything, right? When you sit in the energy of jealousy, it creates a world for you. It creates an entire world for you, and it can take people over. It can control people. So can love. If somebody's in love, oh my God, they're unstoppable, right? Nothing can stop them. Everything works magically. Everything's beautiful. Nothing can get them down when they're in a state of love. That could be perceived as a god or a goddess. That is a forceful, influential energy. That I get that, right? So if you want to connect with those deities or whatever, you can just connect with the energy. I mean, really, it's just sitting in a meditation and connecting with the energy and thinking, okay, what does justice feel like? What does justice feel like? Feels like balance. It feels like righteousness. It feels like order. It feels like goodness. It feels, what does that feel like? And embody that energy. And that would essentially be you connecting with that deity. If you don't believe in deities or whatever, it essentially would be the same thing. Now, it could be a little bit different because when you're connecting with a deity, goddess of love, you can actually ask them to do things for you, right? So you can say, it's essentially like you just asking the universe for things. Same thing, you just give it a name and a sort of embodiment in your mind, and you're just asking it like it's a friend or a person or, somebody who has more power than you do to do something. And essentially, all of this is within your mind, so you're the one running the show. You have all this power, but it's the same. It works the same as the universe. It works the same as the law of attraction. It works the same as when you ask for it, it will come. If you actually ask for it, if you're purely asking for it. And if you've been following for a while, then you know that just voicing it doesn't actually mean you're asking for it. You have to mean it. You have to mean it in your bones, in your vibes, to actually ask for it and be open to receive it. Ask for it knowing it's coming. Ask for it and being grateful for having it at the same point, right? So that's, if you don't know anything about the law of attraction, definitely go watch my channel. All right, so I think that you've got enough juice, enough ammo to go and at least start to connect with deities. And definitely just Google some of this stuff. I know there's plenty of books on it. If you guys want to comment down below your favorite books on your favorite deities, go ahead and do that. I'm going to pull a little tarot here. Maybe we'll get some guidance on connecting with deities. I don't know. We'll see. If you have a question. So I'm pulling from the Everyday. This is the Everyday Tarot. It's like a little mini tarot deck. I will shuffle it in front of you. It's a mini tarot deck by Biddy Tarot. I actually love this deck. Okay. So we'll just ask the deities. Anyone who loves us, who wants us to step into our power, have anything to say. Two of Pentacles. Ooh, that's interesting. Two of Pentacles. So the word shitstorm is coming to me. I think that especially if this is pertaining to connecting with deities, clearing that shitstorm is sort of a thing, balancing things. But what's coming to me is like, there's a whole lot of information about a whole lot of things, and you've got to either choose one or the other. It's like we're not being quite decisive enough here when we're trying to connect with deities. We're allowing the shitstorm to kind of cloud our vision. And oh, and we pulled the Queen of Pentacles, just for a clarifier, in reverse. So what's happening is we've just got too much going on here. There's too much confusion. What I'm seeing is you probably have conflicting books, like something physical, because these are pentacles, so this is earth energy. There's something physical, maybe even like watching this video and then watching another video, or one thing says this, one thing says that. It's like we gotta throw all that out. And you've got to tune into what you already know to be true. So the best way to sort of like tap into your witchiness is to tap into what you've already got, right? It's to sit in meditation. It's to kind of make a decision, make those choices. And here's what another thing that's coming to me. It doesn't matter if you believe in deities or you don't believe in deities. Make the choice. Like, sit down and make the choice. If you, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're like, I don't know, I don't care about, connecting with goddess Venus. I don't care about it. I want love, and I want a man to come to me. This is what I want, and I'm going to connect with the energies. And, this is what I have available to me, within me, experientially, knowing this knowledge right here and right now. And so, but it's like, you got to make a decision. So you guys are having some trouble with making this decision. And there's just like a shitstorm. I'm just seeing shitstorm. So choosing with clarity, but really it's like separating these energies and taking what you already know to be true. Here's a big thing. You don't need to gain any more knowledge to connect with deities. You don't need to gain any more knowledge to connect with your craft. You don't need to gain any more knowledge. You use the tools that you have right here and right now because you have them. Like, you pulled the Queen of Pentacles. So you pulled it in reverse, but it's reminding you that you have the tools to be the queen. You have those tools to step into the royalty in your life, the ruler of your life, right? You have those tools, but you're not utilizing them because you're just like, you got all this other shit around you that it's showing up as conflicting energy for you. Hopefully this video has helped you if you've had conflicting energy with deities. And I also want to really, really point out to you, because there's a lot of people, witches and Christians, and really that's about it. It's just witches and Christians that have a lot to say, down in my comments section. Not all the time, but a lot of witches have a lot to say. A lot of witches and Christians are trying to tell you that what you're doing is not right. Here's the thing. To be a witch is to be a man or a woman who rules their own lives. You make up the rules. That is what it means to be a witch. It's somebody who's wild, who's like wild and untamed by anyone else but their own spirit. It's only your own spirit that could tame you, and your own spirit would never actually try to tame you. So there is no one that rules a witch other than the divinity within her or him, right? So a lot of people are going to have a lot of shit to say about connecting with deities and yada, yada, yada. And even all the shit that I just said, these are just suggestions, right? If you feel more connected to a way that you can and will connect to a deity, you follow that guidance. That rules above all else. The guidance within you, the true divine guidance within you, not the mental chatter, the true divine guidance. When you quiet down all that shitstorm of chatter and conflicting beliefs and yada, 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 you quiet all that shit down. Meditation really helps. Any form of meditation helps to do that. Quiet that, and the divine guidance, that rules over anybody else or any book you could ever read or anything. And I don't care who the F it's coming from, somebody who claims to have been a witch their whole lives and know everything about it, what it means to be a witch. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter. Okay? So happy connecting with all of these magical deities. They are all so excited to connect with you because they love creating magic with you. They tell me this all the time. They love when we practice magic. They love when we use the law of attraction. They love to create through us, with us, right? They love to help us. That's what they're just sitting here like, all right, when's this girl going to ask me for help? Because I'm really bored, No, I'm sure they're not bored, but they're excited. They're eager to help us. So connect, make magic, create beautiful things in your life and in the world, all right? All right, guys, I love you so much, and I will see you next week on a Witch Baby Wednesday. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to connect with me outside of YouTube, head on over to my Instagram to say hello, watch behind the scenes stuff, and check out any special announcements that I might have going on. Now, if you haven't already, head over and watch one of these awesome videos and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video, guys.
That's where my dreams come in and take me away to a better place where love is real and all my...
Yeah, I send you all love, so much love.